Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of GeekVerse podcast. I am one of your hosts. It belongs to us, Taylor Field, and I'm joined by.
I am the finish the fight, Kirkland Patzer.
I'm Adam Marcaster Dilmas.
Yes, we are here to continue our trek into Halo Season 2. We've got the penultimate episode here that we're going to be reviewing.
Oh, yeah.
But before we get into that, a couple of plugs. You can find us with your internet connection in the search bar. GeekVerse.ca is our home base. GeekVerseCast is our Twitter. GeekVerse is our Facebook. Be sure to check us out and support us on Patreon, where you can get ad-free, early, exclusive episodes. Lots of good stuff there. Lots of retrospectives that have been dropping, including this weekend. You're going to be able to rent, for the first time ever, our exclusive GeekVerse Studios film called Adrenochrome. It's fantastic. It's just been a journey, and here we are. So if you're on Patreon, you can get it, and you can also get an exclusive look at the next film. A little teaser there, but you have to be a patron to be able to view that. Otherwise, afterwards, it'll be locked in the vaults until 2025. So be sure to check out the Patreon if you want to tune into all that goodness. And speaking of all that goodness, fuck, I love these guys. We got Aaron Braden, April of Darkness, Jack Grant, Mud, Sam and T fucking Money, Patreon producers. You guys are just amazing. You keep us going at night. So
At night.
At night.
I guess we do normally record at night, so that does make sense.
Yeah. Dylan, I know you got something you've been working hard that you gotta plug right now. What do you
I'm gonna
got?
plug it right now. Yeah, you guys have been making a movie. I've been making a game. It's called Potion Problem, and you can wishlist it on Steam. Now, if you want to hear a little bit more about it, you can go check out this week's side quest. And I'm probably gonna drop a little solo episode at some point next week, just talking about it a bit more to give everyone a bit more info. But yeah, you can check it out if you want.
Beautiful.
Hell yeah.
Kirkland, what about you? You got something you want to plug?
Not today. No.
Kirkland's writing a book. No,
yeah, exactly. An original script, this original screenplay that I've transformed into
Just
a
getting
comic
it around
book.
Hollywood right
Yeah.
now to any bites, you know.
Thank
Well,
you, Taylor, though.
Yeah, no problem. Let's get into some non-spoiler stuff for this episode. And I mean, who wants to start? Who wants to carry the torch here?
I'll grab that torch. I'm pulling a Taylor last week. I actually liked this episode. Isn't that crazy?
Whoa.
I had a good time with this one. I think there was a it was a pretty low key episode. Like there was no action in it whatsoever. It was just a lot of conversations, and I thought the dialogue was well written and well performed from most of the cast. There was really only like there's still like two storylines in here that to me are just total duds, so it's not like it was a perfect episode by any means, but it was definitely my favorite episode of the season, I would say. And there was a couple elements in particular that I really enjoyed. So yeah, I'm actually coming out of this pretty excited, and I don't know if it leaves me off in a spot that I'm necessarily hopeful for the finale to wrap it all up. I suppose it feels like we're like halfway through all these stories. So I don't know what they're gonna do next week. We'll see. But I guess I'm a little bit more excited now for it than I would have been otherwise. So happy to report that I actually enjoyed my time this week.
Nice. I'm carrying the torch off of Dylan's handoff there. I feel like I am kind of where I've always been. I agree. This has been like a little bit of a bump on my little, I don't know, my little odometer reader. Like I definitely got something more that I felt like, okay, this is kind of a more Halo story here. At least some of the aspects of the Halo storyline that I'm somewhat familiar or interested in. But I still felt like there was a lot of fluff in here that I just wish wasn't in here for just the sake of maybe spending more time in a more interesting avenue. And like Soren's story with Kessler and his wife, like I'm sorry, I do not care about any of that stuff.
Yeah,
going
that
on.
was.
And
Oh my god, get it
and
off
like-
my screen.
yeah, and like just where we're going with Quan, like I guess it has some relevance, sort of, with like some other characters, more so than what it has been in the past. But it's still just, I don't know. I feel like I don't love the execution of it, and our big bad lead Pablo Schreiber, like he is just as flat as ever. I feel I feel like in this episode, fortunately, I feel like there's some people that he's interacting with that actually like lifted this episode up more so than it had been in previous episodes. So that's definitely a positive, but yeah, I there's not too much that really makes me think that it's like the season's being saved from heading into the finale here, coming off of this penultimate episode. I'm not too hopeful that I'm gonna be like blown away in the finale, but I don't know, like I am at least a little bit more interested into seeing at least how it ends with where we end off at the end of this episode. So definitely, like, if I had to put my little chip in one category, positive or negative, I am more positive than I had been maybe in the last couple episodes. So that's definitely a thumbs up on some sort of scale, but nothing too crazy where I feel like I'm hopeful going forward into like season 3. Yeah.
All right. Well, I feel like I'm definitely still positive after last
2
week
weeks in
and
a
then going
row?
into this episode. I
Okay.
know 2 weeks in a row. I didn't like that, but no, it caught me by surprise because you're right. There's no action. It's just a lot of dialogue stuff. But a part of me, when I finished the episode and I understood and acknowledged the fact that I liked it, a part of me was genuinely upset with myself. Was upset that the fact that, and understanding that this is an adaptation. This is a different approach to this, but I'm upset that I like it in the sense that the way that they have gone about the writing, I feel like a lot of the stuff with this show is sloppy. I feel like a lot of the stuff with this show is very poorly executed. And that doesn't save it by any means, but here we are at this moment now where things are getting interesting, and I feel like as showrunners and as writers that they've really dropped the ball on getting to this point now after what 9 plus 5 episodes, 14. I feel like that's horrendous. And so here we are. And things are finally getting interesting. But I still don't like that things are interesting in the sense too that we are where we are and we have the characters that we have in this interesting storyline. I don't care about Soren and his shit anymore. I really don't. I still hate that Master Chief takes his helmet off and he's saying he's throwing death threats around left, right, and center. He's like, this is not my Master Chief. And that's one of the things that bothers me because I like where we are in the story, but I hate that we're at this point in the story with these chess pieces, this part in the game.
Yeah.
It's very unfortunate. It's like you have to go up against the queen, all you got are pawns. It's horrible. So
I like what you said there because I definitely found myself in the middle of some interesting parts of this episode, like thinking as if I was being like deceived by a magician. I'm like, why am I starting to feel interested in this when I've just hated the show so much up until this point? And then I'm thinking about it more, and then it's just like, I don't know, certain character performance or just thinking back to where they've come from throughout like season 1 to this season now. I'm just like, oh, damn these bastards. Like there is glimpses of some positives in there, but like I can't forgive them for just like what they've done decision wise with certain characters and like Chief especially. I think Chief, certain high ranking Oni individuals that I'm just like this is just so wild that they went this direction with the show. But yeah, I think you definitely highlighted something that I was feeling similarly on during this viewing, specifically on this episode.
yeah, and they continue, especially in this episode, they continue to consistently pull from a gazillion Halo sources and compile it into the one episode. I feel like every episode we get into is another combination of like 5 games, 3 books, and a bunch. Like it's fucking
and you know
brutal.
them all. You're that deep in the lore that you know all these these cuts.
It's brutal, man. I can't handle it anymore. But yeah, here we are. Here we bloody well are. So. Anything else you guys have before we get into the spoilers?
I love your anger that you enjoy it. Like that's so good. No, maybe my last shout out here, non spoiler, is just the music. I thought was also really outstanding in this episode. Certain moments were really highlighted well, which it's been feeling pretty dull the last few weeks and not very Halo like either in the score. Of course, you have the theme that plays with the intro, but I'm usually skipping that anyway. But yeah, I thought that I don't know whoever the composer is, at least on this episode, really stepped it up and really highlighted some of these moments pretty well. So that was a good shout out there. But yeah, I don't know if I have anything else non-spoilery.
The last shot specifically of this episode, like when the score came in, it was like, oh, this is Halo. Like I feel that ambiance, which is something that's been lacking, I think, throughout the show, which is a big bummer because Halo is just, it's got some of those iconic music, and even just today, like I was listening to like Halo 3 soundtrack, like it just gets me.
So good.
Yeah. Oh, it gets. I mean, that's why my name is Finish the Fight. I was listening to that track, and I'm like, yeah, let's go.
Nice.
All right. Well, we're going to jump to our first ad break, and we'll be right back. And we're back. Okay, Kirkland, I mean, just to interject here quickly, I think you highlighted a very important part there, just that score kicking in at the end there, the Halo theme. That scene could have been so much better if they weren't showing the reflection of the halo in Chief's eyes, but his fucking visor. Wouldn't you agree? Wouldn't that be amazing?
I would agree. And we saw a reflection in Chief's visor, but it was actually Pablo. It was Pablo looking at the armor.
It was
himself.
Oh God, it was.
Are you happy to at least see the armor back, Taylor?
Yeah, that was actually quite nice. I wouldn't have put it past them to not have the armor at all for the rest of the season, but yeah, it was there and we got it, and he didn't do anything with it. He just walked around, and I mean, he had his helmet off the whole time, and people were cheering him on and getting all amped up and whatnot. So I mean, hey, we're back in at we're back at it. So
I'll disagree. I think he did do something with it. I think that was something I really enjoyed in this episode. Was actually the conversation that Chief had with Perez, where they were kind of rehashing their conversation that they had when they were going through the rubble of Reach, and they were talking about the lucky coin and whatnot. But even just like she's saying that, hey, we need you here for this fight, and he's like, you don't need me. You never really did. You know, like I maybe did a little bit, but like it's kind of down to every individual person who's whatever the battle or fight that they've been in the past. And so I thought that was really nice of kind of just him believing in them and wanting them to believe in themselves, and that he doesn't need to be there necessarily. But she kind of pushed back on that and seems to think that, okay, maybe he does have like some special powers or something. But either way, he is just such a symbol to these people. And we saw that as why those soldiers didn't just like gun him down in the hallway when they had him dead to rights there. But to me, that was like really impactful, especially towards the end of the episode when he's just walking through there in his suit, and people are kind of seeing that and just feeling inspired. So I quite like that. I feel like I didn't like what we did with the armor up to this point and the lack of it, but I think we actually got to a point that I thought was pretty cool in terms of establishing him as a symbol. And once again, it's like I wish we saw more of that. We actually saw why people have so much respect for him. It's still a lot of just like, yeah, I guess they do. He did some cool things in the past before we ever saw it. But at least I like where we've kind of ended off with that element of it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Actually, you make a really good point about him kind of imposing that thought to them that they can do it. They have the strength and the courage, and they don't need him. I'm trying to remember, did he tell her that you're going on a suicide mission?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. No, because like, remind me how that conversation was going from his perspective, right? Like the reason why he wasn't going with them was he's going on his own mission. And then like I was just kind of confused because he was going off about saying like it's not necessarily like the person that gets the credit that wins gets the victory or something along those lines. Like what exactly was he saying there? Because for me, like in that dialogue, it just seemed like, although he doesn't say you're going on a suicide mission, it's just like, yeah, no, like I got my armor now. I am this massive symbol, and like from her perspective, that's like the ultimate morale booster to like see that armor on the battle line like with you, and just knowing that he's just not going there, and like he's kind of cagey with like what his mission is on like why he wouldn't be going there.
Should I not be going there?
Yeah, like I kind of took it like from her like she was totally in the right to be super pissed off there, and like literally just having him there would be so powerful in the sense of like if you see him before you go in battle but he's not actually on the battle with you, that's kind of a negative. But like maybe it's because he's somewhere else, like in the battle, like doing something important. Like, is that more so how it was being read from you guys?
Well, one thing I feel like with this section in general is like, in terms of all the soldiers like turning and being in favor of Chief and wanting to support him and his kind of militia that he's got going on here, like that is something that I don't feel like they did a good job of setting up at all to get to this point. Even like Ackerson is like now good, like on his side, and I was like, wow, that happened in 2 seconds. Even Kai turning around, I didn't feel like where we left off last episode we were getting into that. So it's weird. Like I feel like none of the foundation is there. So the only thing I can really say is that like the actual scenes I thought were well done here. But yeah, it did feel very sudden to me. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't understand exactly what's going on, like with his mission or his goal here necessarily. So I'm maybe a little confused as you are there. But yeah, I guess that's one of the things I was kind of saying earlier. Is that just the symbolic nature of it? Is he just feels like, I'm trying to think of like a different way to word it, but he.
Like he's like it's just like seeing him like is enough to kind of boost the morale, I guess, like of the soldiers, even though they're not necessarily.
Well, that's like what happened at Reach, right? When it was fine, they saw him without the armor, and they're all like, "Oh yeah,
who the fuck is that guy?"
Yeah,
it's I don't know, maybe he feels like he just wants the people to believe in themselves and realize they can do it, and they don't need him around. But after that conversation with Perez, realizes that. Okay, it's like, what's the worst that can happen if I do put the armor on and like act as that symbol for these people because they need it right now in this.
Yeah,
we're in dire straits here, right?
Definitely, I see where you're coming from there, and like for the overall scene between him and Perez, I do agree. I think that was a really good back and forth. It was heavily carried by Perez. Like that actress was heavily carrying that when you just have Pablo kind of standing there, little airheady, and like. It's so funny because breaking the fourth wall, we did our fan cast, and I picked him as a certain X-Men character, and I'm just like seeing him in that role now, like while I'm watching the show, and I'm just like, God, what a funny what if that would be. But anyways, for I think something that like kind of brings down like maybe my overall excitement for seeing him as this like super powerful symbol is kind of just like the one man like vengeance show that like Chief has been on. Like even in this episode, he says like he came here to just punch a hole in Ackerson's chest and like murder this man. Like that was his goal.
Yeah, I got
to
the
come
quote.
Here.
I quoted that. What does he say?
I thought that was wild. Like this is Master Chief. This is the guy that's gonna save humans, take on the Covenant, stop the Halo, and like his one mission is to come here and just fucking murk this man. Like, what is going on?
I came here to punch a hole in your chest and watch the life drain out of you. Like,
brutal.
That's not my Master Chief.
That's my symbol of freedom, and like
And then even like Kai has been at Ackerson's heels for the last few episodes here, but what was her quip too of I'm trying to remember like what that moment was exactly, but he was like, I don't know, give me some reason why I shouldn't like kill this guy, and she's like, I don't really have any reason.
Yeah.
Of course, said it in her like goofy little way.
Yeah, so like it's just super solo mission, which I mean, throughout the games, I guess that's kind of been a case for Master Chief. But for how they've been writing the story, it's really not working for me and like making me really hope to like, I don't know, see him go on this solo mission. Like I'm like more so interested in the Spartan 3 combat versus what's gonna be going on with Chief and. But like that's just because of where we've like the journey that we've gone on. It's kind of since the first season. I think just hasn't been the best trajectory. Even though along the way there might be some bright points. Just the overall journey, I'm not really liking what's going on. But
were you guys thrown off with the scene when when Chief's telling Kai about Vanek's death, and he just said like 4 times like he didn't understand. He didn't understand. I didn't understand what was going on in that scene. Like I was really confused about his delivery there.
I don't know how Taylor felt on that one, but like I actually quite like that scene as well. Okay. Like with the armor room and that line it worked for me because I just thought in the sense of if these are like super super soldiers, like there's never an instance where like they feel like they would get like just upper handed like that, especially if they're always in their armor. Like taking a needler to the chest in your, what is it, Mjolnir? Is that the armor? The Spartan army, Spartan armor? Like I would imagine they're just like so used to combat in the sense of like I'll never get taken out. Like I'll never be in a position that I am like about to die, and then if he is about to die, it's just like I don't like that just I don't know. That's just how I kind of read into it, but maybe I'm overthinking it. But Taylor, what do you think?
My interpretation of that scene was they weren't expecting to be left behind, weren't being expected to have the suits taken away or anything like that, and just that moment where your people you thought you were trying to save kind of basically turned and abandoned you. I think that's what you don't understand. Like, why would they be left in this situation? Why would you be condemned to die when you are a hero? You're trying to save people. And ultimately, I think there is more light on that too when they talk and highlight about this idea that the moment you're abducted as a kid was the moment you died, and I think that you just didn't realize it at that point, and now this is the point here where you're dying and you still don't realize it, that it's your death. So maybe something along those lines, but
Don't understand. I don't understand.
don't understand. Yeah,
Just on my deathbed. I don't understand. I don't understand what's going on. Hopefully, I'm not at that point.
I don't know if I have much to add on these characters, but I mean, we talked about Ackerson a little bit. I do feel like the turn of him kind of being on Chief's side here was just, what were they building up with this character? Because we talked about that, or this whole earlier season. Like, I don't know what they're leading towards with Ackerson. Maybe Taylor had some more like perspective going in knowing that character, but I kind of forget him from the games. But yeah, it's like, okay, this is what you were building towards. I don't see him doing anything big and valiant in the last episode. Maybe like sacrifices himself. It's like, I don't care if he does that. But I also feel like Parangosky has been like really poorly set up in this season as a antagonist that I should feel intimidated by or scared by or even intrigued by in any way. She didn't have a whole lot of screen time in this season to this point. But yeah, it feels very off to me, and like that tension hasn't really worked. And now that we're actually seeing Chief and Ackerson interacting again, it's just not working at all. And then the Covenant is such a weird threat because like in couple times in the season have they actually on a face-to-face level interacted with our protagonists and those characters. That feels like kind of a separate storyline. So overall, just like the antagonist, villain, like that element of the show, I think is really, really weak at this point. So hopefully they can kind of bring it home with an interesting connection between all of them in the finale there. But whatever the stuff was going on in this episode was not really working for me.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you on Ackerson as well as Parangosky. I feel like the Ackerson switch, little switcheroo in his motivation, like, yeah, it just seemed so sudden. It's almost like early of this season, he's basically like where Parangosky is right now, where like is just like a complete antagonist to like our heroes. Air quote our heroes. Don't really love our heroes, but anyways, like just an opposing force. And then now that like they got off reach, it's revealed that like I guess Ackerson's just been working for Parangosky, and Parangosky is this just like opposing force to Ackerson. And like before she was like really in this season, it just seemed like she wasn't really there at all. And now that she is, like they just have a total switch around on what their roles are. And yeah, no, I really, really am not liking what Parangosky's got going on. Like it doesn't even seem like, okay, yeah, she's super, super harsh, making these harsh decisions for the greater good. It's just like, it just seems like she's making bad guy moves. Like she's just sending the Spartan 3s in one fleet at a time. They get instantly wiped. Like I didn't even see a single Covenant dot go out. Like it was literally 100-0 that the Covenant just wiped out all these Spartan 3s. Ackerson's just bawling his eyes out next to her because his life's work is just getting murked in like the period of like 10 seconds. She's like, send another one, and like she just seems like a Dr. Evil type villain where like she's just sending like this cannon fodder to just get murked constantly. And like, how is this strategically like Like she says, like, yeah, we have to win. Like we have to win. Well, then fucking come up with a new plan. Like this is horrible. And Ackerson's trying to say that they're like spec ops units. Like they need to have like very specific duties. She's like, they will go where I demand them to go. And like all of that is just so not working. Like I was like laughing in that moment because I just couldn't believe how like bland of an antagonist she is. Like she's not intriguing. She doesn't have like cool like tricks up her sleeves where it's like, okay, I can kind of see where she's coming from. It just she seems kind of like an idiot, and like she's like the leader of the UNSC, and just the scale of it is not working for me at all. And these moments are where I'm thinking of like I just don't like what this show's been going on. Like there is glimpses of good stuff between UNSC and the Covenant, but like that's not even what the show's about. It's just like the UNSC and their like corrupt hierarchy, and then you have Chief just trying to take down the hierarchy. Meanwhile, the Halo's just out there somewhere. You got the Arbiter and what's her face? Yeah, thank you, McKee, on their own little jaunt. So just that scene was really bothering me, and yeah, no, I was kind of going off there, so you guys can talk about whatever. Sorry.
Well, I agree. I think Ackerson as a character making this flip is way too early, and I hate that again. His rivalry with Halsey has been put to rest already, because the main thing with this character is he's just got this super rival mindset against Halsey, and he cares so much about his own legacy and his aspirations for his ego and his legacy can sometimes get kerfuddled up in doing the right thing. And he just makes for a very compelling opposition character, and in this it's just you see he cares about his life work, but he doesn't care about seeming like his name. He's willing to go down with the ship, and that doesn't seem like the Ackerson that I'm familiar with. And he's the good guy now, which even more doesn't seem like the Ackerson I'm familiar with. He's helping the Spartans and all that, and he's like smiling because on the comms when he walks in there with Parangosky, and Parangosky's being told like, oh, there's a Condor leaving unauthorized access, and you just hear over the comms, this is Master Chief John 117, and then Parangosky's like, arrest Ackerson, and he's like, who do you think they're gonna believe now? It's like, what
that smile that he gave, like as soon as he heard John's voice. Oh my god,
yeah, so cheesy.
It's brutal, but yeah, Parangosky is a character. I don't know. They bring her up from, they make you think that she was kicked out of service, and now she's been working with Oni the whole time. Here she is leading the charge. I'd be pulling a mutiny on this woman so fucking fast, because when she's just sending in the squads like one after the next. And I understand this show is probably saving a lot of its budget for the next episode, the finale, and like how they're managing their funds and stuff. But I would have loved to have seen how the scene went, but I can appreciate the intensity of it when they're listening to the comms and they're like, you guys are the first wave, you're going in. And the Spartan 3's like, we got this, yada, yada, yada. And then the mic cuts to dead. And they're like, Spartan, you there?
That was that like that's what got me. They're like super hyped, like, yeah, we got this, ma'am. And she like does his little her little one-liner to like motivate the troops, like, you're gonna carry the baton, like you're gonna carry the bill, whatever the fuck she says.
Yeah,
it's
you're
like,
carry
yes,
the bill.
We got this, hoorah! Like 2 seconds later, just all the blips go out. Like, oh, that just happened. Okay, next fleet, get ready.
I was trying to understand the setup here, because I thought that Onyx was being attacked, but it's having earthquakes or something, so I'm not sure. But they're analyzing because they know where the Halo Ring is, and the Halo Ring, the location was sent to them, I'm assuming, by Cortana once the Covenant figured out where it is. And this is where the story gets kind of convoluted, because it was one small cluster of ships, Covenant ships, that arrived at the Halo. They didn't know where the Halo was. The Pillar of Autumn made a random jump, and this one human ship landed there, and a couple Covenant ships followed suit, and we're like, oh my god, we found the Halo Ring. And that was the end of that. But here we have High Charity. We got like the biggest Covenant fleet of all time showing up at the Halo Ring. But they're just following the Arbiter and McKee's ship, because they knew where they were going. So again, you can see the similar parallel where they swapped out the Arbiter and McKee's ship for being no longer being like the Pillar of Autumn, the human ship. And it's just funny how you have these parallels here, where it's like the Arbiter is like your Captain Keyes. You got Cortana with McKee, and McKee's like your Master Chief kind of thing. They're fleeing the
Right.
Covenant, going to the Halo Ring. But the just to revert back and see what Parangosky was looking at on the display, where it's starting to get like staticky because there's so many fucking ships like causing gravitational disturbances in this area. Just to send your troops into that like one at a time, like it's just the stupidest of stupids I've ever heard of.
Meat grinder. Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about I guess it was the opening of the episode, which was like takes like this second after last episode where both Chief and McKee touch the artifact and they have this moment where they meet, I guess as like holograms essentially on the Halo ring, and they have like very like the lighting was so savage. Yeah, it makes sense. It's not like they're not really there. It's supposed to be some sort of weird anomaly vision thing, so it's okay if it looks like bad CGI. But yeah, how did you guys feel about that scene? Like they have a very intimate relationship still. It's just very kind of bizarre how little screen time they've had this season together. I'm sure we'll have something next episode, something more meaty perhaps.
Yeah, I like the one-on-one between Chief and Perez a lot more than the one-on-one between Chief and McKee here. I think just because I like the performance more of Perez going off with with Chief, and like I think McKee is all right of a character, and her performance has been definitely better than what Chief's has been throughout the entire show. But
I feel like she's always Pablo's like never really acting. He's just like blank face. She's always like overacting, like always shaking her head and like her eyes are going crazy, and she always has like this intensity to her, and like it feels like 90% of her scenes. She like maybe overdoes it a bit, but it's at least like she's at least trying kind of thing.
I think that's why, like last season when we didn't really know too much about her, I'm like, she's some sort of weird Covenant alien thing. Like there's something going on under those that skin. Yeah, I was waiting for a transformation.
Or whatever she says in this episode.
But like I don't know, the Halo like. What would you call it? I guess like filter that they have going on. Like every time that they're on these like dream sequences, it's kind of funny. Like it's a beautiful place, especially like I've just memed so much on that shot from last season where McKee's like, "It's beautiful, isn't it?" And she's just like surrounded by the light.
Yeah.
I just think of that every time I see us go to Halo. At least in this sense, I wonder what will happen when we actually land on the ring itself. But getting back to like their actual dialogue and what was said, I didn't get too much out of it. I think because I don't have too much invested in like their relationship. It's not like I'm really rooting for like these two to like get together. I still don't fully understand like what's connecting them and like why they just have such like an intimate relationship other than just like when they've used like the Forerunner tech, they've kind of. Because, like, last season, you're going to have to remind me, like, they could, like, see, like, each other sort of thing, right? Like there's some sort of connection in that sense, almost like a Raylo type thing going on, or... Yeah, okay, it was like that.
Yeah, I guess would that just be, like, related to the artifacts in general? Like, is it, like... I don't know.
Well, they never, like, fully explained why that happens between these specific two, right? And McKee's like... Are we really so different? Like, are I don't know. It was just I didn't get a lot out of that.
They kind of hinted at it a little bit in this episode, but then I feel like they've kind of like disproven or discredited their that theory at the same time, or that type of storytelling, because of what we saw in season 1. So I'm not sure exactly how, and I say that because of. Well, we'll get into the Forerunner stuff with Halsey after, but it's just weird how they were talking about DNA and stuff, and just it's very convoluted. But her character, like starting off in this episode with them back on their little dream sequence, God, I hate that shit. I hate it so much. It's fucking terrible. And what did she say? Yeah, like I wish I could share the screenshot. It won't let me upload it right now. Maybe you can see it from my phone. So she's like, she grabs at that scene, she grabs Chief like hands, pulls him close, and then she says, because they're basically like Chief is saying
Let
this
us
is a weapon.
fuck.
Yeah, let us fuck. Chief is saying that this is basically a weapon. Like Covenant can't have it. She's like, well, humanity can't have it either because it'll be a weapon.
To wipe out
And
the Covenant, right?
yeah, and then she just says, the ring doesn't belong to them. It belongs to us. We can make this a haven, a peaceful place. I'm like, what the fuck are you babbling on about? Just. And I hate that they already know what the Halo is. I hate that they know it's a weapon. They've never been there, but they all know it's a weapon already. It's like, man, are you kidding me? No, they didn't even realize that until the very end of the first Halo game. And so they started studying it and exploring it a bit. But
That's a good point. Like, that is a big leap of logic, or like, there's no reason why they know that in this show, right?
there's no reason. Yeah, they're just
rumors,
assuming.
murmurs, I guess.
Rumors and rumors. They're just assuming that it's a weapon. That's why the Covenant want it, and that bothers me that they know this.
And it's like it's a race to the Halo for that reason, not like for both sides, right? Like the Covenant want to get there because the Arbiter's, I guess, vision, but wasn't really a vision. It was Cortana, right? Showing the like initially he thought it was because of McKee being the Blessed One that like they got that image, but it was actually Cortana.
It was actually Cortana,
Yeah.
yeah. And at some point, Cortana got the coordinates and has sent them to the Halo ring. Covenant fleet followed, but she also relayed that to the human fleet. So that's why, again, I thought when we saw Chief pop out with his Condor, I thought that, okay, this is all like a human fleet fighting the Covenant fleet, but really it's just the Covenant all fighting each other.
It's just fucking Spartan 3s floating in space, just getting charred.
Yep.
No survivors.
Yeah, no survivors at all.
The mention of Cortana too. That was another thing that I kind of came to the conclusion at maybe prematurely, but I don't know. We're kind of at the end of season 2 now, and just while I was watching her scene with the I'm not gonna pretend to remember his name, but the Covenant priest character that was in pursuit of McKee at the start here when she was chatting with him. I'm just like, Muad'Dib. that's what it seems like. I just don't really like the usage of Cortana either. Like in this season for sure. I thought last season because she was kind of hidden and like not really a solid thing until later on. There was some intrigue and mystery there, but I just don't like how she's been mostly with the Covenant this season and like working as a double agent for Parangoski, a character that I'm really not liking this season. And she like is kind of with Chief, but like I feel like after the last season, like after the end of the last episode, there wasn't really a lot of moments where it was like clear that she's like even communicating with Chief at all in this in this episode. So that was kind of strange. And it was another one where I'm just like, wow, I'm just really not loving with what they did here. I kind of just like the dynamic of Chief in his armor with Cortana, and like those are our tools. That's our protagonist's tools for this show, and that's definitely not been the case for Armor, and Cortana's been very distant from him. But yeah, I don't know. Like I was just kind of thinking about that in this episode specifically, that like last season I was really liking the usage of Cortana in that, and really liked all of her moments, but hasn't really been any of that going on in this season so far for me, where I've really highlighted Cortana in a positive sense. But yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, I wrote this in my notes. Why are we getting the adventures of McKee and Cortana and no Chief and Cortana? I followed it up with everything we see between McKee and Cortana is what I want to see with Chief and Cortana. Because in this episode, all we get from Chief and Cortana's relationship is the hallway lights turning off and on. It's fucking like horrible. Like there's no sustenance from that, and that's just guiding him to not to the suits, but I guess to where Ackerson was. So she was looking at like the blue doors that were opening up, and Kai's like, "Where are you going?" Yeah.
Classic Kai move. Yeah, it's.
Why do you want to know the little like one-liner that he hit her with?
Cortana to me is just so forgettable in this show in general, but I'd say even more so this season, which is weird because she's one of the most iconic characters in the game for me, second to Chief from my perspective playing all those games. So it's weird, and she feels so plot devicey. Like she doesn't really have a personality at all that I can gauge, and like it's like a different actress than the first season too, so maybe that takes away some of the connection. I think that's the case. So I don't know. It's a weird like nothing character, which I don't know what the plan is or the idea with the character is, but whatever it is, not working for me. That's for sure.
It seems like because she is like such a powerful resource across the board, like for whoever has her hands, the showrunners were just like, yeah, like let's just kind of put her with McKee to like keep her away from like John.
She's too powerful already.
And UNSC.
Can't give him
It's
more
too
power.
powerful with even without his armor, let alone with Cortana. So let's nerf him a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. Whatever the decision is, I'm not vibing with that stuff. Super bad Mike in the comments. This is like the motivation I need, like going into each episode. Keep up the good fight, fellas. Only one episode left. I felt that today. Like I'm just like, man, gonna go home, watch the second last episode. Feels like we're on episode 72 of the season. It's been going on and on and on, but almost there.
Almost there. Maybe I'll just mention this very quickly because there's not much to say here. Soren and this fucking Kessler storyline. It seems very lazy to me, like what they're trying to do here. And I don't know if it's a screen time thing, but I think it's more just like having any sort of ideas. But just like, first of all, I hate Soren for what he does in this episode. If I was like, oh, you know what? This is actually good for my son, for him to get abducted and who knows what the fuck these people are going to do with him.
Beaten down on with fucking batons by like grown-ass adults.
Like he's totally okay with that, which is weird. It's like they go on all these adventures together. Maybe he's felt this the whole time. Because going into this episode, I was like, I think Soren hates his kid or doesn't like his kid at all. And then so it's like, oh, okay, we kind of got that confirmed. He doesn't really seem to care. That's an interesting way for me to care about this character when I don't really know much about Kessler, and Soren's the more established character at this point. So I don't love that. But then, then it feels like extra fabricated when at the end of this episode, or later on in the episode, when he goes to save the day and he just goes badass and destroys all these guards and protects his son and whatnot. And it's like it just felt so fake, like this fake reality TV show sort of drama, to get me to think now that Soren is this valiant guy. He's a chivalrous knight for going to save his kid. He should care about his kid. He should save his kid. It shouldn't be set up that he doesn't care about his kid, and then he does later on. It's really kind of lazy, and was a total drain on the episode. These last two, I guess even the last 3 episodes, everything going on with those characters, just... No, get it out of here. This season would be so much better without that stuff in it.
I mean, yeah, I said it earlier in the non-spoilers. I'm just not loving... No, let me rephrase. I am definitely not liking at all what's been going on with Soren, his lady, Lara, I believe is her name.
I thought it was Layla
Kessler.
the whole season, and then because I had the subtitles on this time because I need to now because of all the Covenant talking conversations. Yeah. Now I found it's Lyria.
So when the wig comes off, name change.
Right.
Different
name.
name.
Alter ego.
Yeah, like I don't know. Like I guess there's an interesting substance to that dynamic in a different story, but for this one, it's not working. And even like the execution of it is just not good. Let alone like trying to mix it in with our main story here. So, yeah, that whole conversation when he's like. Imagine being in Lara's or Lara, whatever her name is, like in her shoes in that moment. Like you're on this hunt for your son with your loving husband, trying to get your only son back, and here he's like, maybe this is good for him. Like what a betrayal that would be in that moment.
It'll build character.
She's like, yeah, her whole life is like just in this moment is focused on getting Kessler back, and then you just have this asshole next to you like, yeah, this is good. This is what I did. I got beaten on by these metal batons.
And look at me now. I'm totally normal.
It's the second time he's tried to do this. He just wants to get rid of the kid because he was talking to those 2 ladies like, you know what, you could provide a good home. Yeah. Good home for him. Right. So he just wants to dump this kid.
Yeah.
100%.
He's over it. He just wants to go back to his asteroid at this point.
Yeah, and like it just seems like throughout the show, he's been this like old Spartan that kind of just actually got out of that life and like is living his own life now. He has a family. Like it should be an interesting dynamic, but anytime he's like thrown in this situation to like prove that he's like a good dad and like has these qualities of a good father, he's just like, I don't know. It's just like reverting back to the Spartan ways, and it's like, yeah, no, this is good. Like it'll thicken him up, thicken his skin, and just make him tougher. And like just comparing like what he went through, it just seems like his motivation earlier on should make it seem like this would be the last thing that he wants Kessler to go through, like what he went through. And here he is thinking that it'd be a good idea. He says all this, and then it gets down to it where Kessler's going to do this like trial thing or fucking purge, whatever the hell's going on in this moment. Super dark nonetheless. He just like jumps in there and like kicks the shit out of all these. Like I feel like he was just waiting for an excuse to beat on all these like. It's clearly not Spartans. Like these guys in red with the bats. They're coming in here thinking they're doing their job. Meanwhile, old
they're ready to see like a little like 2-3 foot child come out of the smoke. This 8-foot man just comes
super
out.
soldiers comes out, beats the shit out of all of them. Oh my! It was like a John Wick scene, just with how graphic it was getting with those metal bats. But I was so puzzled with what was going on. I thought he made one decision and then he reverts back, and then I thought they saved Kessler and they just get like abducted by the ghost people. That scene was all over the place, and I was just head scratching throughout.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give my thoughts after this ad break. And I'm back to give my thoughts. I just couldn't agree more. I think it was just super weird. I don't care about Soren anymore and his wife and his son Kessler, and just the idea of just leaving Kessler in this situation. Just I can't get on board with that. For some context, because he alludes to the story about how there were 5 of us that were in this place while the rest were all hiding, ran away. Him, Vanek, Ritz, Kai, and Chief were the last 5 that were standing. They really, really changed up this story, and I don't like this story. This story just sounds, it's not as doing justice to Chief. So in the original story, on Reach, when they were kids, they were dropped out in the middle of nowhere, out in the woods, and they were told, okay, here's the location of a pelican. The last person to get here, and the kids were all dropped separately. The last kid to get here is left behind and has to walk back to base. The rest all get to be evac'd out on the pelican. So what Chief did when he was a boy, he grouped everyone together. They approached the area. They saw that it was guarded by ODSTs. So that, okay, we're going to take these ODSTs down because we don't know if they're a threat, if they're a target, like what's going on. So they collectively worked together, neutralize all the adults, have them all knocked out and taken down. And then he makes sure that every single kid gets in that pelican, and then they go. And it just really makes this character feel like a reliable
That's
and
my
like a hero.
chief.
Like, that's my chief.
Right there.
That's my chief. But here, you got like the kids screaming, and this was fucking terrifying. Like the smoke shooting, the guy coming in with the fucking baton. Like this is next
What's the
level.
trial? Like, what are they learning in this?
There's no
like,
trial. You get to learn how to get the shit kicked out of you. Like, God damn.
Man, I would love to just sit around a campfire and hear Taylor tell Halo stories.
I got a
Sounds
lot.
like the ideal
I got a lot.
situation for me.
I remember reading about that in
love
the
all
Fall
these
of Reach
stories.
in that story when they do that trial. No, that,
Mhm.
I didn't realize that was what this was supposed to be a comparison of, because it's just obviously so different. And
Oh, yeah.
I just don't know what the objective is. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
There's
But,
no objective. I mean, at least the other stuff, they have objectives, but this, no. You literally just stand in an arena. Like, it's like playing like Friday the 13th or Dead by Daylight or something. You just gotta like avoid getting hunted and the shit kicked out of you by.
they're like
one of these
repairing
tall men.
generators. Like, what are we supposed to be doing here? You got the cop from Outlast Trials
Holy
coming in with
shit.
the shock
Walking and
baton.
unlocking random doors.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
Anything else on Soren? He's gonna
Absolutely
go
not.
elsewhere. Something that I thought was pretty interesting actually here, which what was going on between Halsey, Miranda, and Quan and the Forerunner stuff. And the Forerunner aspect of the show has been interesting. I feel like because of, I mean, I played Halo, but not like all of the Halos. I'm very fuzzy with like some of the lore when it comes to Halo, especially what goes on with Forerunner and like the Flood. Like, there's certain story elements that I just don't know too much about. So the way that they've kind of been tackling the Forerunner stuff in this show, it's been pretty minimal for the most part. This one I think is the most important of it, because they actually see like a like a fallen Forerunner person, like a scientist, where they discover their lab. And of course you got like the light bridge, which is just such a iconic like imagery I think in the Halo world. activating those so you can drive over on your Warthog in the games. But I thought all of that stuff was really interesting, and I really had no idea what was going to be going on when they opened up that door. All the lab stuff I thought was interesting, and then when you see the whole city kind of light up, I thought that was a really cool image. I was pretty bummed it just like went away like that. It was almost like I was watching like an Indiana Jones Crystal Skull type thing, where like they get a glimpse of something really cool, and then it's gone in like an instant. And I mean, yeah, like, what are you guys' thoughts on that? And then I guess I was gonna ask, like, what's the threat that's coming? The red.
Well, no, I think in terms of topics, I think we saved the best for last year. I really enjoyed this this whole sequence. Honestly, I thought it was really great to. I mean, going back, we've said this before, but like Halsey, I think probably the best actress in this show. I've always thought Miranda was great, especially in season 1. So to have the two of them going off here, and then Quan. I like the start of her story this season, and then there was a couple episodes there I'm like, I don't think I'm liking this anymore. But I think once again we've got to a point that's pretty interesting of it. But yeah, just the whole conversation they're having here of this place of that they've been studying being both just like is it science based or is it like religion based? And you have Halsey and Miranda who are on the side of like, I guess Halsey's more like deep science. Quan's like full alignment on the religion side of things. And then Miranda's like kind of somewhere in the middle since she's been here more recently and exploring and figuring out some of these things. And so you kind of have the fun dynamics there of them figuring everything out. And I really liked that. It just felt like a very video gamey type of puzzle of like picking up these stars and then like moving them on a map to like figure out what's going on here. That was a really fun sequence. Obviously, that's kind of what we got with Quan, and having those kind of dream sequences was leading into that. So I really have no theory on what the hell is going on there. Maybe it is some sort of religious experience. That's what I'm led to believe, some sort of spiritual thing going on there. But yeah, just in general, like one of the lines of dialogue that I really enjoyed was Miranda was saying that while she was here doing these investigations, doing the science, all these experiments, and going through Halsey's old notes, she just felt like she was getting to know who Halsey was at that point in her life, and that was kind of parallel to where she is currently, and finding this like a mutual point between them where they've had all these differences in the past, but Miranda in doing these experiments has realized just how similar they are. And Halsey now being in this situation, I think being stripped of everything that she had on Reach and all the things that she was in control of, and just being brought back to this place where she was maybe a different person, and they're just like bonding over this in a way that felt really genuine, and we haven't really had from them in this show. They felt like a very weird mother-daughter bond, right? Because they don't really have much of a bond. So I thought everything here was really great dialogue, good acting, and then like I guess this really is the only action sort of sequence ish of the episode when they go across the bridge, they go into this lab, and then like having to run back out. And I really enjoyed all that stuff too. Like Kirkland was saying, all the Forerunner tech was really fun to see. Seeing like that scientist kind of just curled up in a ball, aged there, everything cracking down. Seeing this like old ancient lab. I had such a great time with this whole sequence. I thought it was just excellent.
Yeah, this whole part of the episode, I really enjoyed it. There was one moment that made me, I'm not gonna say goosebumps, but had chills. I was like, oh, this is fucking terrifying, and I loved it. I really loved it. The Forerunner tech was great. Seeing the Forerunner body in there was interesting. I wasn't expecting that. To be honest,
has that ever been done like in the games? Like, do you see a Forerunner individual?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, in Halo's 1 to 3, you don't. Halo 4 and onwards, you'll see Forerunners. Seeing a Forerunner here was it was interesting, and I wasn't expecting it. When the doors opened up, at this point with them doing all their crazy shit, I thought that we were gonna see like floods start pouring out or something like that. Like, especially when we see the vials and everything. But I like that it's a scientist. I like that Miranda grabbed the notes or the information that we're going to find out about that the scientist was holding on to. I think that was pretty cool, and I'm interested to see what that is about. And if I had to guess, it is the flood. And before I get into more about the flood, everything with Quan, just kind of like remembering how like what she saw in like cave markings to put stuff like wherever, that was very fucking fluky. Thank God that Halsey
Very
had her
lucky,
there, because
absolutely.
that's insanely lucky. So we see it's a clock, but we see it is legitimately like all star systems and solar systems and whatnot. And so the interesting thing here is when they're leaving that vault, that lab, and when they get out, they see everything's turning red, and Halsey's like, "Oh, look, it's their history, their expansion, and their growth, right? Or they're taking over the stars, their empire." That's not what it is. And this is the part that really gave me like the chills. Like, oh fuck, I know exactly what this is. And this is the laboratory. This is a laboratory. The red is the infected planets. This is the flood spreading. And I thought, man, this is absolutely terrifying. I love this. The thing that I laughed was because Quan was like, oh, the growth. So she has some pre-existing knowledge on this, but she's fucking gone. She's still in those caves. Everyone else fucked off, but she's still running around down there. Like, what happened to her character? Hopefully they send someone down to fetch her, because she's gonna get lost or something down there if she keeps running around. But
We gotta get out of here. Just runs off.
like,
Reminds me of
leave
that
her.
chap from The Mummy. The guy that gets eaten by those scarab beetle things.
Oh yeah, yeah. So her pre-existing knowledge, that has me very curious. Now, as we know, all the Halo rings have flood on them. Replacement Halo rings for destroyed ones, destroyed installations, those don't have flood on them. But the flood does exist on other Forerunner planets as well. Um, when they're just their basic spore forms, they don't have much going on for them, but they have to spread, they have to take over more mass, and once they take over more mass, they'll form a proto grave mind, and that'll form into a full grave mind, and that creates the cohesive consciousness that can kind of control all the sentient nearby flood entities, and then they can start taking over, get smarter. The more beings they absorb, the more smarter it becomes. So whatever flood exists is just spores or whatnot, but that cave marking that looks like a big scary face, obviously it means that they must have faced something on Madrigal. And so with flood existing outside of just the Halo rings, at least in the game's lore, I'm curious what that backstory is. Now, obviously Miranda Keyes is going to find something on this data, I'm sure, about the Halo ring. The plan, Parangossi's plan, is not going to work. They're not going to blow up the whole solar system, destroying the fleet and the Halo ring. Chief's going to get to the Halo, and we're going to have the Covenant down there too. So it'll be interesting to see, I guess, in season 3 when the flood finally arrives. But I feel like this is a pretty good foreshadow as to what's to come. Maybe we even get like an end credit scene in the season finale, a flood spore or something like that, just to really kind of like rope people in. And that would definitely sucker me in to see some flood related stuff.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if there was a post credit or like how cliffhangery the ending of season 1 is. I can't remember what the last scene was.
I don't remember.
We'll see, because we still to this point don't have a confirmation if we're getting that third season.
That was when Cortana, right, like knocked out Chief, and then he was like comatose, wasn't he? And then like wasn't that the start of this season that he's like frozen still, and then it starts with that that I thought was a flashback. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I'm misremembering.
The start of the season? Because he was on
Yeah.
the planet, right, with the religious people that wanted to die. And
But like it was that moment of like, shut him down, Chief.
Oh, God,
Chief, and he's like completely frozen. Yeah.
Gotta reboot.
Yeah.
One other thing from that sequence, I think in a lesser episode or with lesser actors, this sequence would have been cheesy. The dialogue definitely could be, but the moment when they're on the bridge and they really got to get out of here because this place is crumbling. But Halsey is just she's so enthralled by everything she's seeing, the cities that are kind of below them. So she doesn't want to leave, and Miranda eventually calls her mom, and that's what grabs her attention. I thought that was really sweet and wholesome, and I think that's a very easy thing for them to flub and for it to feel goofy or cheesy, but I think they did a good job with it, and it was a nice, heartwarming moment.
I agree with that. They were talking about DNA, and this is what I alluded to earlier, how when Miranda questioned Halsey, and she said, we found DNA originally, and that same DNA was kind of like we found human and we found their DNA. And the thing with the Forerunners is the mantle of responsibility. They basically were the overseers of the universe and just trying to keep things in line, keep things safe. And so when they retreated and they retired, basically, that mantle was passed on to humanity. That's why humanity can activate Forerunner technology. So you have it weird here because it seems like only some humans can activate Forerunner technology. And so the thing that when they found that Forerunner DNA, they were looking for that DNA in children, and that children is who the Spartans became when they kidnapped those kids. And that's interesting, but that's not necessarily how the lore goes, because all humans can activate Forerunner tech in the lore. And you have Spartans that were just peak of their gene pool because humanity was able to expand and thrive and grow and grow and grow. And through observations, they were just picked because they were peak at what they do. And so it's also not completely out of touch with the fact that, okay, the Forerunners did put their DNA and mingled it with humans, because there's a Forerunner called the Librarian who added basically like accelerators into humanity to allow humanity to excel technologically further and further and further to get to the point where they're supposed to be a Spartan, because the Spartan is where they're supposed to be like peak. So there are some things that they pulled and they were kind of mingling around, which I can understand and appreciate a little bit, as it is convoluted. So that's kind of where the whole DNA talk was kind of coming from when they were talking about that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's cool.
But I think that's all my notes.
Me as well.
Yep. I'm exhausted. All the notes.
Well, unless you guys have any last minute things to say, I think next episode hopefully should be a banger. I want to see the whole human fleet, the Covenant fleet. I want to see Chief's fleet. Just everyone just go to town.
Chief's cheeks, maybe.
Chief's cheeks. Yeah, hopefully.
How much helmet action are we getting, you think? You think it's on for like a minute and then he just pops it off?
Less than 2 minutes.
Yeah, less than 2.
Less than 2 minutes. Yeah. Do you think Parangoski's gonna die? Do you think anyone's gonna die?
Ooh. Yeah, let's do it. Let's go with Parangoski's down.
Finale is gonna be
Soren,
her.
If we're lucky. We'll bite the bullet, him and Layla. Kessler, he can live. That's fine. But
Finale is gonna be Parangoski, just like corrupted by the flood, and then she's the main villain of the next season.
wow.
Fuck. I mean, that's what Keys was supposed to be, but they changed that. I mean, Parangoski will just put on.
Never
Chief's
saw the
helmet.
body. Maybe he did get lit up.
You never. Yeah, that's
No pun
exactly
intended.
it. You don't see the death, and they're still alive. Because I've come to learn. Oh, anyways, let's get out of here. We'll be back next week. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.